so-called blacks in America, are we really citizens?
Blacks cannot be citizens of the United States.
Now, some of you may be wondering, why would you even question that if you're a citizen of the United States of America? Well, as an Asiatic, am I really? As a Nubian, as an African, am I really a citizen of the United States of America?
We're all adults here. And if you don't know these things, imagine the trouble that our children are in. Because these are civilization rules, I'm telling you. These are not, I'm not just talking because I'm talking to you. These are rules of civilization. I'm just trying to prove to you where you've been cheated so that you can be inspired enough to go get something for yourself. Because nobody's going to volunteer and give it to you because you're the economic base for this thing.
The Supreme Court of the United States would proclaim that blacks, by virtue of their race, were not persons before the law.
That's what the Negro, black, and colored status is. It's a status of property as opposed to a free man, nor a manumitted person. A manumitted person does not mean a free person. That means you transfer from one care to another. Manumitted. Yes.
The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that a free Negro of the African race whose ancestors were brought to this country and sold as slaves, whether or not emancipated from slavery, is not a citizen within the meaning of the Constitution of the United States.
A slave or a former slave cannot be a president of the United States of America. So, some of y'all may say, well, what about Barack? He's black. But is he really? You know, his parents, Barack is not the descendant of slaves. His wife is, but he's not. Okay?
I am proud to be the first American president to come to Kenya. And of course, I'm the first Kenyan American to be president of the United States. That goes without saying.
That's why you won't see any brother from Africa or Asia come here arguing, talking about crayon colors. They will use their nationality. You know, if they're from Nigeria, they won't even say they're African. They'll say Nigerian. Some Zimbabwean or Egyptian. You understand what I'm saying to you? He's from Lebanon on the north side. So I'm Lebanese. They don't say I'm light-skinned yellow guy. That stuff only goes here.
And of course, I'm the first Kenyan American to be president of the United States.
Now, that's another thing too, black and white. Black and white is not a color, as many of us believe, or most of us believe it is. The black and white is more of a status, okay? You're either black or you're white, okay? And there's foreigners that come to this country that's darker than me, and that's put down on paperwork as being white. But their skin complexion is not white.
That's only black and white people exist in America, by the way. If you say you black in Africa, they're gonna look at you funny. And if you say you white in Europe, the Europeans gonna look at you funny. So at the end of the day, black and white people don't exist in America. So to tell the black community, like, that's crazy, man.
So when the people know that black and white are legal statuses.
Human beings aren't crayons. But some adults have difficulty handling that. But that's the truth.
Blacks cannot be citizens of the United States. In a sense, Dred Scott can't even sue because he's not an American. This is one of the best examples of this notion of blacks as aliens. Even though he's born here and everything, he is not an American. The American family, as Tony says, is for white people.
So let's go through this. Free white persons, quote unquote, is a legal phrase referred in the Naturalization Act. So now you're supposed to know sociology, you're supposed to know Nationalization Act and naturalization. They're distinct. Naturalization is for aliens. Are we clear? Now, as amended July 14th, 1870, which meaning naturally given to it when first used in one statute 103C3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, then commonly counted as white, and their descendants including such descendants in other countries to which they have immigrated. And understand in law books you have condensation, so you take what you call your conjunctions and stuff like that, and then you re-interject them, the preps, etc., because it's condensed. So it here is free white persons. You see this? So it, free white persons, includes all European Jews more or less intermixed. If they're not mixed, they can't be free white people. Meaning if they ain't got melanin in them, can't be free white people. It's a legal status. It includes all free European Jews more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. Free white persons includes Magyars, Lapps, and Finns, and the Basque and Albanians. Free white persons includes the mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian, and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, the mixed Greek, Latin, and Phoenicians, and North African inhabitants of Sicily. North Africans are white people. You understand? Phoenicians are white people. Moors are white people. It's a legal status. So, all right, so Iberian and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, the mixed Greek and Latin, Phoenician, and North African inhabitants of Sicily, and the mixed Slav and Tartar inhabitants of South Russia. Free white persons does not mean Caucasian race. Can y'all repeat this, please? Who can read? Who can read? Who can read? Can you read? All right, let's do this together, y'all. It means free white persons. Free white persons, come on, y'all, does not mean Caucasian race. Free white persons does not mean Aryan race. Free white persons does not mean Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semitic, and Mongolian peoples who inhabit Persia. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person. Then you got all your law case, so you can see clearly it's a legal status. So what happens when you call that European white man? You just called him sovereign and transferred your estate to him as focal. Now, as soon as he acts like it, you want to talk about he's racist. See the danger of not being educated? And then you get angry because you just don't know. So the people are destroyed by the day for lack of knowledge. Man, know thyself.
As such, we were considered mere property and not human beings. Remember, the Declaration of the Independence of America in 1776 stated the following: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." We were slaves in 1776 in America.
Stop denying it. Stop clinging to this belief that you are a citizen of this great country. No, you're not. I have rights. No, you don't. The Constitution applies to me. No, it doesn't.
Lastly, the court said they, black people, were not, or at the time considered as a subordinate and inferior class of beings who had been subjugated by a dominant race, and whether emancipated or not, yet remained subject to their authority, and had no rights or privileges but such as those who held the power, and the government might choose to grant them.
We know that we've been branded, although we don't accept that truth. That is the truth, but we don't accept it. And so we keep on transacting business in our God's name. Now the Negro God is, they call him white man. No, and don't blame the Europeans, because you lied on him. Just because the sorcerer set that up, that don't mean you have to accept that pact. You don't have to accept the pact. You don't have to be a liar because the father of a lie gave you a lie. If you transact business in another man's name, don't talk about estates and don't talk about property, because you don't even own your own body. Let us say this. If you ask the average child in elementary school today, and particularly even a few generations back. How did your family become known as Smith? They will tell you. Either, oh, that's my grandma's name, or my grandma's side, or my grandpa's name. And you ask them, well, where'd they get it from? Oh, they got that from the slave master, which means they're not ignorant, which means they knew the truth. They did nothing to correct it, did they? That's a contract. It's called acquiescence. So it automatically gives their corporate state jurisdiction, which the modern word used for the slave is called ward, W-A-R-D, ward of the state. And state, not the land, state the corporation. Then you have boards of governors that govern all the states in the commonwealths. Their responsibility is to protect the stock, S-T-O-C-K, of the citizens. Negroes, blacks, and coloreds are stocks, starting with the birth certificate and any other contract you make with them.
I'm asking the question. Are you saying, well, you answer one of my questions, I'll answer one of yours. Do you believe that corporations are people?
I am not going to weigh in on that. I mean, we're going to have a long campaign here, but I want to know what
corporations are people. You won't weigh in on whether some people are people? That seems kind of racist, George.
I am going to move on because one of your top supporters...
I bet you will.
Corporations are people, my friend. We can raise taxes on... Of course they are. Everything corporations earn ultimately goes to people. So, where do you think it goes? What? Whose pockets? Whose pockets? People's pockets. Okay, human beings, my friend.
You understand it? Then you understand why they incorporated you as a being. And it doesn't make corporation itself bad. It means understand what corporation is, and understand when someone creates a corporation and tries to pull you into that jurisdiction, whether or not you belong there or if you agree to it, i.e. whether you challenge that jurisdiction that they created. And what they did, they created Negro, black, and colored, a set of Christian black codes from the church that set up a system in governance that dealt with the movement of these living beings, which is called chattel property, in a bureaucratic manner under wardship status, wards of the state, as stock being held by the European families with these Asiatics who bear their name, which indicates them as property. And all certification certificates, etc., relative to those matters, liens are filed against it by the Europeans, and therefore they can smile on your face and you never know they own you. And then when you get bad treatment, they give you an argument. That argument is called racism, prejudice, and stuff, and you arguing that, and they really stole your birthright. And everybody knows that, but that kind of spoils the game that they've been playing on our people. You see the point? When they incorporated, turned the republic into a corporation in order to put the Moors later, as they did earlier, solidify the 14th Amendment artificial person in the state of Delaware as Christian property. This is why such persons is called Negroes, black, and coloreds, and what do they call themselves this week, can't vote with them names that don't belong to them, except that the overseer, or what you call the CEO, through the Senate, agrees that their cattle can vote as 3/5 persons because they have no name and nationality. When you understand the history from a law perspective, your view will change from it just being some historical flaw or some little dirty trick that the Europeans do. You would need to understand its political ramifications. If you transact business in another man's name, don't talk about estates and don't talk about property because you don't even own your own body. And this is where, under the Christian black codes, where they set up where the marriage license is registered in the Department of Commerce, then registered in the Department of Orphans, and this is where your children, even before they're born, become wards of the state, which is a legal term for nice slave. And see, nobody's offended because they know that most of our people don't read law, and so they just hear the word and it's interesting, you know. And then the scholars ain't going to tell them because they playing this black game. You understand? When they know these people aren't black.
But every so many years, Congress has to go back to the table and vote whether or not that we're able to vote. A citizen of the United States is able to vote. Okay, now, if we were citizens, why is there need to vote whether or not we can vote? Why do we need permission to vote if we're citizens?
The Klan don't like Negroes and blacks because they're always trying to be somebody that they're not. Trying to crash everybody else's party. Of course, it doesn't seem that way on the surface, does it? You You understand what I'm saying to you? Going around claiming to be Smith, Jones, and Johnson. And what Smith, Jones, and Johnson, you can't transact business as Smith, Jones, and Johnson because you're acting as Smith, Jones, and Johnson's agent. And so he got you on the stock market as an agent. So when you sign that name, you're simply signing as an agent. It ain't your stuff. Point, you can't transact business in another man's name and then claim any allodial property or right of title. That's why they always get certificates of titles. And they don't even know the certificate what title is because they don't study law. See the problem? You know, and so all these things which the Europeans have been using to take advantage of our people because they don't study and it doesn't fit their beliefs. Here we go.
And it says the word Negro means a black man. The term Negro means necessarily a person of color. But not every person of color is Negro. The word colored in the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. And it states, it has also been held that there is no legal technical signification to the phrase colored person, which the courts are bound judicially to know. Why? Because it's an artificial person. An artificial person is a person created and devised by human laws for the purpose of society and government as distinguished from natural persons. Corporations are examples of artificial persons.
Because they want you to think it's an identity. Color means actually artificial person, means a fake. Simulacrum, as distinguished from that which is real. So they need promoters to make you think it's real, to take you out of the human family. Now you come under the black codes. This is where your abuses come from legally. Because it's an agreement.
Blacks must give over the fact that they're not citizens, and I posted that and I agreed with it. Well, part of, you know, I don't just want to agree with it, I want to show you where you can find it and research it for yourself. And then we can start to have a common voice and start building toward a common plan. So I'm going to turn my phone around, and here's the website. And it's lectlaw.com, www.lectlaw.com, and under Citizenship American, right here, all natives are not citizens of the United States. Descendants of the Aborigines, who we are, and those of African origin are not entitled to the rights of citizens. Anterior to the adoption of the Constitution of the United States, each state had the right to make citizens of such persons as it pleased. The Constitution does not authorize any but white persons to become citizens of the United States, and it must therefore be presumed that no one is a citizen who is not white. As they say in black and white, research it, chew on it, but stop denying it.
Okay, so what happens during this naturalization process? How do you become naturalized? To become a naturalized citizen, you must recite the oath of allegiance. The United States oath of allegiance is as follows. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been subject or citizen. That I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law. That I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law. That I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law. and that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. The crux of the oath that we are concerned with and that I'm trying to point out to you is the following. The oath states that you absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, or another country, in other words. Listen to me carefully. The emancipated slaves did not petition any court in America to be naturalized and swear the oath of allegiance. Number two, even if they did attempt to become naturalized citizens of America and swear the oath, they could not truthfully do so. They could not truthfully give the oath because they did not know who they were and where they were from. Remember, we don't even know our names. Just about all black people in America have slave names. Your name might be Smith, Jones, Woods, Perkins, Chestnut. These are not our names. We don't know who we are. And the slaves, once emancipated from 1865, didn't know where they were from. So what does this mean? Okay, as a legal matter, if you don't know who you are or where you from, in a legal matter, that means you are incompetent. So in the legal sense, the emancipated slaves who were uneducated, didn't know how to read and write, didn't know their name, didn't know where they were from, they were, even if they was to try to walk into a court, in a legal sense, they were incompetent. They were not mentally capable of renouncing a foreign power or Africa where they were from, because they didn't even know where they were from. So what does this mean? As a matter of law, our parents and their descendants, which is you and me, are foreign nationals of another land. We are not citizens of America.
But you can see in the nature of the law the dynamics. But you would also know that these people couldn't be U.S. citizens. They couldn't if they wanted to be. However, they can lose their nationality by being naturalized, but they still couldn't be U.S. citizens. They could only be Christian property, as 14th Amendment citizens, which would be corporate entities versus natural people, thus clothed with rights, but not having in fact rights. All right, and so I also want you to keep this in mind for those of you who are erudite in law. There's a lot of people who, knowing that the people are waking up, are selling them expatriation packages, and you cannot dissolve a citizenship that don't apply to you. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
You need to pay attention to their obligation. The Constitution is their obligation. That's not some instrument that, it's interesting if you all know something about it, and if you don't, it's not important. Why do you think politicians don't teach Constitution to children in schools? Because that's the document that gives them the authority to do everything that they're doing. Without the Constitution, there is no government. Once you understand that, you understand where you need to be to protect your Moorish birthright. And the Moorish birthright is to protect the Constitution and to enforce the Constitution. The abuses that you've been getting is because that document has not been enforced. It has not been enforced because you ain't been in your proper person. Y'all been busy being colored people. Do you understand where I'm from? So concept of mind, get out of it. You're not Negro, black, and colored, and you got to be that, not that, officially. That's what nationalization process is for. That's why he did it. Do you understand? These have political ramifications. So it changes your political status in the society for the record. That's number one, because it's documented now. You see what I'm saying? So that gives you a standing at law across the world. Now, do you know what to do with that? That's the next issue. Do you know how to proceed with that? Those are the parts of the information that was suppressed by the subversives, COINTELPRO, etc., that was inverted into this movement with the FBI, CIA, etc., which is really the OSS, to subvert this movement. Having the people think it's a religious movement when actually it's a movement to bring people back into the constitutional fold of government and to enforce that constitution for the protection of all the peoples. But he knew that they could not be protected as Negro, black, and colored because that's a category of a caste system. It's not human. It is not human. Does not pertain to humanity. It is outside of the human family, therefore outside the law, therefore outlaws. But some adults have difficulty handling that. So what do you do with outlaws? do whatever you please to do with them, particularly if you have power. This is the arrogance that them magistrates have been using as judges. Do you understand? Because they know the people don't have rights because they won't claim them. And then the people think that the only way they're going to get them is that if they give them to you. Governments do not give rights. Governments are established to protect existing rights. Those rights are inalienable. That is in reference to government. And the inalienable right is derivative of your birthright, which means it's non-transferable. It can't be sold to you. You can't license it. Once you understand that, hold them to it. And they're obligated when they take that oath of office to uphold that Constitution. And if you start talking about Republican Party and Democratic Party and all that kind of crap, and you start getting into their private matters because it's private policy, and you let them enforce that crap, you just gave up your birthright. This is what has happened to us. The Morris Divine National Movement in some ways is a reenactment of the Freedmen's Bureau that was closed in 1870, which was supposed to be a reacclamation of your birthright, giving you back your names, your religion, your principles, and bringing you back into the constitutional fold. And what did the politicians do? They robbed the money and closed it. That's how they enslaved you. You've been gamed. And you've been gamed by your own people who sold out, even in this movement.
Blacks were slaves. Blacks were never intended to be anything other than personal property. You are not, cannot, will not, and should not ever want to be a citizen of the United States. However, you should be proud to be a citizen of America. Blacks, do your research and find out who the true Americans are and who the true copper-colored, big-nosed people that inhabited this land way before Columbus and the Europeans.
Y'all can't come in here.
I'm Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry's a country and western singer.
Is he? You know who else he is? He's me.
Says he's Chuck Berry. Let me see some ID.
All right, then. ID.
This license says you're Indian. That pinup make you look like a white man. What the hell are you?
Well, I'm a musician, and my name is Chuck Berry. And I can be whatever you need me to be to play in your fine establishment this evening.
And in the moment you are born, that you don't know any better, every stick and stone and every face is white. And since you have not yet seen a mirror, you suppose that you are too. It comes as a great shock, around the age of 5 or 6 or 7, to discover the flag which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover the Gary Cooper killing all of the Indians. You were rooting for Gary Cooper. But the Indians were you.
You've had 4 of these major impacts that the black people have made to the Americas, not only before Columbus was born, but before even Spain or Italy existed. That's the kind of roots that are in this country. And by knowing that, and the more you know about it, it's an empowerment. You're really you have got a heritage which is more than slavery. Sure, there was slavery, but that's not all. That's all part of it. Long before that, there's a heritage of kings, seafarers, religious missionaries, and they were all here. But it happened so long ago, there's just so little of it left.
But some adults have difficulty handling that.
The Olmecs, that's just as a name for this very, very early civilization, the earliest known civilization in Mexico. And everyone thought at one time, well, it's just an Indian civilization, until 1861. 1861, a farmer was plowing his field, came across a very strange domed rock, a black rock, and he couldn't dig it out. The more he dug down, the bigger this rock got. Until he dug the entire thing away. It took him weeks to dig it away. And it turned out that he unearthed a 9-foot-high statue, a head, beautifully done, of an African, not an Indian at all the portrayed features of a West African man.
Individuals are missing the point.
Of an African, not an Indian at all the portrayed features of a West African man.
Individuals are missing the point.
From that time until recently now, there have been 11 of these giant stone heads. Let's see, give you an idea how big they are. They're an average, well, there's 11 found now. They're between 6 and 9 feet high, and they weigh 40 tons apiece. They're magnificently carved.
In 1492, you came upon the shores. 700 years, educated by the Moors. 17th century, genocide in the gun. Little passage blessed to market the Africans in the so-called land of God. My kind were treated hard from back then until now. I see.
But I know my roots, and I ain't cool to keep.
And individuals are missing the point.
Africa is not our home. Let me let that hang in the atmosphere for a while. I said at this gathering of the masters, Africa is not your home.
But some adults have difficulty handling that.
I'm a Moor. Got sense enough to know I'm a Moor. And ain't gonna never argue with you that I'm not a Moor. And wouldn't come in your house or come among you and say I'm a Moor if I didn't feel in my heart, in my mind, in my soul that I am.
And individuals are missing the point.
While these were being found, more of the Olmec civilization was found, and a temple was discovered that had also the same type of people, these West African people portrayed as kings and warriors. So, when the first archaeologists found these, it says, well, these are probably just blacks that got blown across the sea and were enslaved. But you don't make huge heads portrayed with crowns of your slaves. You know, these were obviously regents, powerful people.
But some adults have difficulty handling that.
It rhymes.
Yeah, what's it consistent?
Well, indigenous don't crack. The natives don't crack.
The natives.
I have no African descendant in my blood. I'm a Native American. So literally, I'm a Cherokee, I'm a Blackfoot, I'm a Red-tailed Indian. That's what's in my blood.
What connects it up is even the word Moor, because it's pronounced differently in different parts of Africa. And they call themselves Moor, Mu, Mur. There's all variations of that, so even the name Mur.
Individuals are missing the point.
Our ancestors traveled to come here, to make it to here.
Right.
Because we are the same people.
We're the same people.
Only the oceans separate us, but we are the same people.
We're the same people.
Only the oceans separate us.
For sure.
It's the same people cross the ocean and come here and make a family and lost a little bit their culture, and we put it back in the town. And lost a little bit their culture, and we put it back in the town.
Moor, a Muslim of the mixed Berber and Arab people inhabiting Northwest Africa, a member of this group that invaded and conquered Spain in the 8th century. Middle English M-O-R-E, Middle French M-A-U-R-E, Latin M-A-U-R, Greek M-A-U-R-O-S. What about that? It's confusing. More Muslims of mixed Berber and Arab people now inhabiting Northwest Africa.
Now, just for the record, Senegal is West Africa, right?
It's West Africa.
West Africa. So was the Senegalese interrelated with the Moorish Empire or the Moorish history?
Yes. Senegal is related to the Lara Empire because the Empire Manding, if you say the Empire Manding, there was no separation for the world before. If you say the Empire Manding, there was no separation for the border before. You said the empire manding is grown from Senegal all the way to the Kingdom of Ghana, from Mali, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Mauritania. It was the same empire.
Bashar, and he also knows that North America is known as Al-Maghreb Al-Aqsa.
Of course, I know that. North America was known as Al-Maghreb Al-Aqsa, and it reported to Sultan of Morocco.
The Moroccan Empire extended from across the Atlantic over here to the Americas.
Good, how are you?
This is Brother Yasun.
Yasun, my name is Rushdie. What's your name, brother?
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice name.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying that you were down there.
Yeah.
And then you noticed.
I noticed your face cap and I came to speak to you guys. I just want to know where you got it from. I've been looking for one too myself because the last time I was about 20 years ago when I got married.
That's the last time.
Yeah, special occasion.
In Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka we call ourselves Ceylon Moors.
Ceylon Moors, exactly.
Yeah, in Sri Lanka we call ourselves Ceylon Moors.
Ceylon Moors, exactly.
Yeah, in Sri Lanka we call ourselves Ceylon Moors.
Ceylon Moors, exactly.
Here we have another map, because the elders always taught us that all the original places, all of them was original places, place names of places over here, and was at a later date transferred overseas to confuse us, because when the European came to power, what he did was change up chronology and geography, or the time-space coordinates to disorientate us. So we don't know where we at. Here's an old map of America, showing old names, and here you have Tripoli, Morocco, Tunis, Turkey, Atlantis, Egypt, Patmos, the Globe Theater, which was tied in with Shakespeare's Globe Theater, Francis Bacon and all of them, Moab, the Moabites, Cairo, Illinois, because where that part of the Nile or the Mississippi comes, they call that whole region Little Egypt. And you have a place there right there called Cairo. Mecca, Yucatan, Lebanon, all these are place names that's still here to this day. This is off an old postcard. Some brother or sister came up to me on 125th Street and just handed it to me. A lot of stuff just comes from many diverse sources. And with regards to the word Amexem, or what we use Amexem, this is an old, what they call Portolano map. And here you see it says, it's hard to see, but it says North America or Mex. Because the word Mexico came from the word Amexem. And the word Mex is up here, nowhere near what we call Mexico, which means that North America or Mex, Amexem. That's what we refer to it as, Amexem.
Let me explain this to you. You see that? That great seal, you notice that the eye is connected, right? Right? On the dollar bill, you'll see it's disconnected, right? But here it's connected. So that Northwest Africa or Mexum. Northwest Africa or Mexum. Southwest Africa or Mexum. That includes the islands. Do you understand? Now, this is basically for the masses and Masonic secrets. Right? Now you know. If you don't know that and you're talking about securing anything here, don't worry, you ain't securing nothing because you're property. And property can't own property.
Moorish Americans are indigenous to America.
Relations. Do you have any indigenous treaties that you'd like to talk about?
You know, there's one that I just learned about. I didn't know about it. There's a group called the Moors. And
where are they from?
Well, they were in Morocco, and they had some pretty powerful treaties. They were the first country that had a treaty with the United States.
The first nation to recognize my country was Morocco. In signing the Treaty of
after the Revolutionary War.
Now you're beginning to understand the Al-Moroccan Revolution on another level. The American Revolution, the Al-Moroccan Revolution, Gotta know. Now you understand why when you go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, you see all those statues got turbans and fezzes on? Europeans tell them in school, oh, they're Frenchmen. And the Asiatics say, oh, all right. Them statues got turbans and fezzes on. Big as day. Gettysburg Address. So our people, they can't pay. You know, things are in their face and they like lunch.
This is taken from a pamphlet that I published called the Ben Ishmael Tribe. The hidden history of the Moors who later led to the rise of Garvey, the Nation of Islam, and Moorish science. Here's a group of so-called Indians, all, as the white man was taking over the eastern seaboard, they all packed up to go further west, and they referred to themselves as the Ben Ishmael Tribe, led by a man named Ben Ishmael. Now, why would a group of Indians call themselves the Ben Ishmael Tribe? And why, when they go to Indiana, Illinois, why would they set up a migration pattern shaped like our great seal, and they called the cities that they migrated from Mecca, Morocco, and Muhammad? This is supposed to be Indians, so-called Delaware Indians in them. Why would they call themselves Ben Ishmael and set up such a migration pattern shaped just like our seal? And then it goes in there because these were the first ones they actually practiced and perfected genocide on. And it was later studied by Hitler. And it almost sounds like the Republican Party. I came across this right when the Republicans came in office, and they talk about how we're going to cut them off for public assistance. The men we're going to lock up in the prisons, which was the first prison system that was built to lock them up. We're going to put the women in shelters and reformatories and put their kids in orphanages. I said, man, this is a Republican Party platform. Which means they actually was implementing something that was perfected on us a long time ago. It was so successful that they finally broke up the Ben Ishmael Tribe and they went to the cities of Chicago and Detroit and later became some of the key founders of the Garvey movement and the Moorish Science Temple. So this is the root of the root. It goes even further back. And like I said, this is so-called Delaware Indians, a collection of different tribes who was displaced on the eastern seaboard, got together and migrated west and called themselves the Ben Ishmael Tribe. And there's another pamphlet I published called the Nanticoke Moor Folk Medicines, talking about how the Nanticoke and the Delawares refer to themselves as Moors. To this day, refer to themselves as Moors. And the Europeans are like, why are they calling themselves Moors? To this day. There's so much about this history that we walking daily on the land of our ancestors, don't even realize it. We looking towards Africa, all this, giving up all this right here.
The first, colonials and the governors of Morocco, because they communicated, because on paper it was part of Greater Morocco. That's known.
That's known.
How come you ain't getting this in school? Because they don't want you to know that you're standing on Morocco, that the land is Morocco, the occupational government is the United States. Distinguished from the land, it's a foreign religious corporation belonging to the Jesuits. You're under occupation. And you're referred to as the Great Masonic Secret.
I'm going into your secrets for a minute. Not you, Black Mason and Shriner. You don't have any secret. It's the white Masons and Shriners that we're going to expose in a minute.
They were the ones that had all the knowledge. That was how we got out of the Dark Ages. It was through them. They had kept the light of human information burning. And of course, there are a lot of other indigenous groups too, but that was the one that I just learned about. I was excited to learn about them.
It's your history. You're standing on your own land, trying to go to Africa, and you're standing on Africa.
That officer had no jurisdiction. He asked where I was traveling. I said Timbuktu. This land is indigenously called Timbuktu. I have the right to assert that right according to Article 6 of the treaty.
I'm going to interrupt you. There are some people that believe that this is the state of New Jersey. You may not believe that, but there are people that believe that this is the state of New Jersey.
Belief is not reason and facts, then. So because the state of New Jersey gives out authentication documentation on West State Street in Trenton, New Jersey, that's why I know the state of New Jersey to exist at. The state of New Jersey is not the soil of the land. So if anyone thinks that the state of New Jersey is the soil of the land, they're sadly mistaken.
Because everybody around the world knows that the United States is a corporation, not the land. And our people keep calling the United States Corporation Company the country, which gives them the sovereign right, because you're the heir. Whatever you say, you just assigned them. Then they call them Americans and they call the country America, which you just assigned them to the sovereign. Which means these people don't even know geography. America's not a country, it's 2 continents. They're incompetent. And don't understand that when they say those things, in law, it's what you say. What you mean is irrelevant. What you said is what it is. And this is what makes it dangerous for our people to get this information and not be given law. Because their arguments will be based in emotion, totally correct emotionally, totally correct symptomatic, but in law, legally dead. 7 continents, name them. No, don't look at the ceiling. 7 continents.
No.
China is a nation.
Antarctica.
No, stop. Let them name. This is a demonstration. Pay close attention to this, because this is what I'm telling you. This is what I need you honestly to really get.
But even people living in a place may not necessarily do enough research. We live here in America, and black people don't know that there were blacks already here before blacks came here. So I'm saying no matter how much a person may live in a place doesn't necessarily mean that they know about the place from which they reside.